I'm Chris Farrell, and this is On Watch. Welcome to On Watch, everybody, the Judicial Watch podcast, where we go behind the headlines to cover news and information that the old legacy media really does not want you to know about. We try to recover some lost history and explain the inexplicable. Today, got a real treat for you. We have Dr. Shea Bradley-Farrell, the president of Counterpoint Institute for Policy, Research, and Education, joining us today to discuss her travels and meetings in Argentina. Dr. Shea, welcome to On Watch.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you back. Argentina's been in the news. Mm-hmm. They've had a big election. President Trump, of course, endorsed President Milei and his party. There are some people that say that President Trump gave a big bailout to Argentina worth anywhere between $20 and $40 billion. We can discuss that. Mm-hmm. But certainly the Trump administration threw their economic support behind the Milei administration. And the great news for us and for our viewers and listeners is that you just returned from Argentina.
I did.
So rather than listening to people in studios in New York and Washington talk about it, you've actually been there. And you can tell us about people you spoke with and things that you did and bring us back the real story. So first of all, welcome home from Argentina.
Thank you.
And then secondly, give us an overview. What kicked off your visit to Argentina?
Well, I got an invitation from the Vice President of Argentina, Victoria Villarruel, who is also the president of their Senate, to come and speak to the Senate about U.S. And Argentina's cooperation now in this new era under Trump and Milei. So I went and spoke to the Senate, and then I had a good and long meeting with Vice President Villarruel, who is a very strong leader for the people of Argentina, right. And she really has the heart of the people. But what was important about it is we talked about why our cooperation is so important right now. The United States has had what people call a benign neglect of Latin America for the past few decades. And Chris, what has happened is that our adversaries have moved in and really taken over in a lot of cases in Latin America. We're talking Iran, we're talking China, Hezbollah, Hamas. So it's we have neglected it to the point where it is to our own disadvantage. And this is the main thing that I'll pause after I say this.
Right.
But people here in D.C. have, to my surprise, many MAGA Republicans even saying that Trump's support of Argentina and this economic support that he gave is not America First policy. It is America First, and we can talk about more why. But the number one thing I just want to lay down first is that, yes, our main focus right now is to combat China's influence and expansion. But here's the thing that's very important about that. You can't just do it by trying to push them back in the Indo-Pacific. You have to stop these victories that they're having in Latin America because they have become more and more influential with geopolitical power, military power, and it's to our great disadvantage. And this has been in Latin America, is what I'm saying.
That was a tremendous overview. There's a lot of things in there to kind of unpack and discuss. So an invitation from the Vice President's office to address the Senate. Mm-hmm. And that's quite an honor. That's pretty cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What were some of the things you talked about in your presentation to the Argentine Senate?
That under the Trump-Rubio doctrine, there's a lot of talk that this is a return to the Monroe Doctrine of 1823, I believe it was. And in some ways it is, because the U.S. is rejecting the influence of outside powers in our Western Hemisphere.
Yeah,
Again,
but we can unapologetically say this is our hemisphere.
right.
And we don't have to be afraid of that. We're allowed to say that.
And we have spent so much time focused on the Middle East and Afghanistan and putting our resources there that we neglected the criminal networks that have grown in Latin America from adversaries that want to harm us.
And we also had one of the great certified idiots in the world, John Kerry, in 2013, go before the Organization of American States and announce that the Monroe Doctrine was dead.
Right.
So by that extraordinarily idiotic move on the part of Kerry, he essentially announced to the rest of our adversaries and competitors, hey, the Western Hemisphere is wide open. You can do whatever the hell you want. No competition, no pushback from us.
Right.
And so
that's
now
what's happened.
For the last 12 years, guess what? Everyone's come flooding in because
Yes.
they think that we've rolled over and played dead.
And they're doing it, China, Iran, Russia, they're doing it legitimately by investing and building infrastructure, space stations, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're also doing it illegitimately, with criminal networks. You know a lot about the laundering schemes, the Chinese laundering schemes, money laundering schemes worth billions of dollars going on in Argentina, for example. Drug trafficking, human trafficking, things that are to our disadvantage. And what did we see under Biden, who was stupid enough to open our borders? Millions of people flooded across. And, fentanyl, which is sent by China, the precursor ingredients, to the cartels below our border, mixed and then sent through our borders. Fentanyl-related deaths became the number one killer of Americans ages 18 to 45 under the Biden administration. So you can see what's going on down there that is detrimental to us. And I'm very proud of the Trump administration, actually using our military to attack these narco boats that are coming in, designating the cartels as terrorist organizations. So that's one way they've put focus back on Latin America.
So when you're talking to the Argentine Senate and you're discussing this Trump-Rubio doctrine, which is a huge shift from the idiocy of then Secretary of State Kerry, how did you describe or how did you discuss these new initiatives by President Trump and Secretary Rubio?
Well, the Trump administration is taking an economic interest in Argentina. And actually, I want to tell you about that because they just did a trade deal recently. But I want to go back to something that you said in the beginning that people also don't understand.
Right.
What Trump and Secretary Bessent, our U.S. Treasury Secretary, did was not a bailout to Argentina. The first part of it is a $20 billion currency swap where Argentina could swap pesos for dollars. Well, Secretary Bessent says that the U.S. has already made money off of this.
Right, wasn't it? When you're making money off of a deal, you're not bailing somebody out, you're profiting.
And more importantly, two things. This helps Argentina get off of reliance on China because they have currency swap with China. As well as other economic investments. And we can talk about the Peronists and the Kirchnerists if you'd like to. But the second thing that was so important is that the U.S. promised to do this, ended up boosting the legislative or parliamentary, they have a Congress, so congressional elections of about a month ago in Argentina, where Milei's party won in a landslide election, and the parties that are supporting him.
And that vote of confidence, obviously, from Trump, obviously really gave momentum to Milei.
Yeah, and it makes sense for the U.S. Some people were saying, well, this is election interference. Baloney. All it is the U.S. saying, we're not going to support if Milei doesn't win, because what's going to happen is that Argentina will go back to these bankrupting policies that they had before. But if he wins, we know that he has the Congress and Senate in place to continue the economic reforms that are making Argentina great again.
Right.
So
why invest in 80 years of socialism?
Yeah, and that's what's
it's done
happening.
Nothing but fail.
And that's what people need to understand is that at least 80 years of socialism in Argentina has bankrupted Argentina.
Right.
It has pushed them into poverty. They have been rife with corruption under the Peronists and the Kirchnerists.
Right.
And Milei is trying to pull them out of this. And if you look at Latin America as a whole, we've got Venezuela's fraudulent government right now. We have Nicaragua. We have Cuba. We have authoritarianism, socialism growing in our hemisphere to the point where we're not secure. But Milei believes in freedom. He's trying to promote freedom. He's trying to strengthen ties with the United States. Villarreal is as well, the vice president. And we need to support. I mean, there's a balance on how much support to give, but we need to support this democratic, free government that is allied with ours. As Latin America, a large part of it is being taken over by this authoritarianism.
So that's a big piece of describing the Trump-Rubio approach to Argentina. Were there a couple of other points you want to highlight
that I talked about in the Senate?
That the Senate was interesting in?
Well, here's something that I think is very interesting. So Argentina is located in the perfect position for launching satellites.
Yeah, the Southern Cone.
The Southern Cone.
Right.
They've got, they're right there by the South Atlantic Sea, the Antarctic, right, which is, a hotbed that everybody wants a piece of the Antarctic.
Right.
They're in such a perfect position, and they have a good space program. China is investing in observation facilities in Argentina.
Right.
This radio telescope center was actually stopped under Milei, which the Chinese are not happy about. But for example, there's another station called Espacio Lejana, I think, or Outer Space Station,
right,
that the Chinese don't even let the Argentines come in and inspect.
Well, it's run by the People's Liberation Army.
Exactly. So
the PLA is in there running a ground station for satellite communications.
Right.
Where the Argentines aren't allowed to even go in and, check the heating or water or whatever.
So I'm quite sure if it's run by the People's Liberation Army that they're only exploring outer space and they're not collecting any of our satellite information and any of our other allies, right?
It's dangerous. It's not in our interest.
It's crazy. So,
and that was actually implemented not by Milei, but by his predecessor, the Kirchnerist government.
Right.
They're the ones that brokered the deal with the Chinese.
Yeah, they're hot for the Chinese. Yeah. They really are.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I think that the U.S. should partner with Argentina and be the one to invest in these things because it's in our interest to know what's going on down there in those areas. I mean, they have the perfect location for launching satellites, for monitoring and evaluation, for doing testing. So I think that we should have more of a presence there. And we also I talked about with the vice president as well, helping each other to eradicate Middle Eastern terrorism that's there. I mean, it's to the point where in the 1990s, as far back as that, Hezbollah attacked the Israeli embassy in Argentina, the Amia Jewish Community Center, and like 600 people lost their lives. And so just a few years ago, Argentina did designate Hezbollah as a terrorist organization, but the United States, Australia, Canada, many other places have designated the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps. Did I say that in the right?
Yep,
in the right.
IRGC.
Okay, as also a terrorist organization. Well, the IRGC was behind, according to the Argentina Supreme Court, these terrorist attacks. So I invited Argentina to also join with the United States in designating the Iranian military as a terrorist organization as well. So that's just like barely hitting the surface.
Right.
There's a lot of different things that we can do together.
So this Senate briefing obviously was well received. Folks can find it online if they're interested in pursuing that.
Yes.
We'll put a link into our show notes so folks can find that and see your briefing to the Argentine Senate.
Okay.
So it's very interesting. There's different sort of characters in the administration. I guess just like President Trump is a very different person than J.D. Vance. They have many similarities, but they're obviously very different people. Mm-hmm. There's a similarity in Argentina. So you have Javier Milei, the president, who describes himself as an anarcho-capitalist, who's interested in economic reforms, and that's really what drives him,
right,
is the economy. And then he's got a vice president, Victoria Villarruel, and this is an interesting thing about Argentine Spanish, is that in their version of Spanish, when you have a double L or a Y, they pronounce it as a sh sound. So instead of Villarruel, they say Villarruel.
Right, which totally negated all the very small Spanish that I knew once I got there.
And of course, the Spaniards would say that the Argentines speak Spanish with an Italian accent, because there's such a huge Italian population there.
Yeah, they're Italian-Spanish mix there.
So the vice president, Victoria Villarruel, she's, in fact, the Argentines don't even use the word conservative in the way that we do.
Right, it's a bad word there.
It's, but folks on the right, let's just say folks on the right, she is more of a cultural conservative. I use that word advisedly.
Yeah.
So she's got a different personality, different political take or kind of presence than Milei does. Talk a little bit about her sort of views or background.
Yeah, she has so much in common with Republican or MAGA Republicans here, conservatives in the United States. She is pro-life. She wants to roll back the pro-abortion law that was made, I think, in 2020, I believe it was. She is pro-family. She is very deep in her Catholic faith. And she has a very strong support for the military. She honors the military. Her father was in the military. Anyway, through these things, what I've really noticed about her is she travels around the different provinces, which are like states in Argentina. Right. And the people love her. That's why I say she has the heart of the people, because she speaks to their needs, to their passions, their desires for Argentina. And, she says a lot of times everything for Argentina. Yeah. So she's just a really kind and dynamic person. And she's very different from Milei, in that Milei is this very courageous figure, I think, slashing government expenditures. He got rid of so many workers who weren't doing anything, but the government was paying them to stay home. We talked about this before. They're called gnocchi because gnocchi is served on Fridays from this Italian tradition, and these people only showed up on Fridays to collect a paycheck. But he slashed government departments, and he got Argentina out of that huge place of debt and bankruptcy where they are. And he's, I guess he's more of a cut and dry figure. I think he's really cool. I kind of fell in love with the ideas that he had when I first saw him on Tucker Carlson, because I was like, this is a guy who can do the hard work to turn Argentina around, just like Trump is doing here. Right. And, back at, was it World War II, where Argentina was exporting so much stuff. They were one of the richest countries in the world.
Yeah, from about the 1880s all the way up through World War II, Argentina was like the 7th largest economy in the world. They took a precipitous fall, but there's an expression, I think it's both in London and Paris, was used in the early 20th century. People would say, oh, you're as rich as an Argentine, because for at least a period, the country really boomed and thrived and was enormously wealthy. And even the city of Buenos Aires, I think, reflects that. There's sort of a faded glory to it now.
It is.
But, it looks like Paris or Madrid. It's very sophisticated, very beautiful.
It is. It's beautiful. It's a very European city. Right. And, they went from this glory days to different types of socialism, Peronism, than the Kirchnerists,
Right. You're seeing it
where
now.
it was bankrupting the country. And that's why Secretary Bessent has said, we can't let them slide back into this, because then we lose this great ally.
Right.
And this is a country that truly can become great again. And that's what I got excited about when I saw Milei. And Vicha-Ruel, like I said, she's just such a heart for her people and a great leader.
Anything else from the meeting with the vice president that you think is noteworthy or that you'd like to highlight or discuss?
Well, I can't discuss everything.
Yeah, nor should you, probably. If you have a frank exchange with somebody like a vice president, you probably shouldn't go out and tell the whole world about every detail of it. But any topics that our folks would be interested in?
Yeah, it's something that I touched on at the beginning, and I think this is worth saying. The Monroe Doctrine, like I said, I don't believe that Trump and Rubio have this kind of patriarchal, kind of neo-colonial approach to it. It is a fraternal, mutually beneficial relationship that they're trying to bring together. And Rubio, he's the son of Cuban immigrants that were anti-communist. He's been working on this issue for decades.
Yeah.
So Trump believes in getting our presence. It's hemispheric security for us to put our presence better back in, and I didn't say that well, but you know what I mean, to get back into Latin America. It is homeland defense. That's what everybody has to understand that we're doing.
If we're not there, the Chinese are. Let's be very blunt about it.
And the Iranians and the Russians and Hezbollah, Hamas. I mean, it's, and we've seen Venezuela grow stronger because of these kind of things. And
another country that should be prosperous, free, enjoying its oil revenue, right? It has everything in the world going for it in theory.
Yes.
But it's now a narco state.
And that's what I was, I guess, getting to, is that Vice President Vicha-Ruel and I discussed that we wanted a partnership, a fraternal partnership of brothers, sisters of the Western Hemisphere.
So that's quite a kickoff to your visit to Argentina.
It was.
The Senate and a vice presidential set of meetings and briefings. But you weren't done. You had more.
No.
Your book, Last Warning to the West, which we've featured in previous shows, has been translated into Spanish. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so the Spanish edition of your book was, there was a launch or a book event and discussion as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, what's interesting about it is this book was published by the Center for Fundamental Rights in Budapest, Hungary.
Right.
My friends there in the center put together a book event for me also while I was there to launch it in the Spanish version down in Argentina. So we had Hungarians, we had Americans, we had Argentines, and also they invited two ladies, one from Italy and one from Spain, to also come and speak on the panel after I was interviewed by my friend Alejandro Peña Escuela. He also is a great book author. There's a picture of him right there. And he is a freedom fighter. I encourage people to find out his story. He was put in prison in Venezuela, and he is just a man that fights against communism and against dictatorship and believes in freedom. He's a good man. You
found out that there are actually book clubs and book discussions in places like Colombia where young people are reading and discussing your book, going chapter by chapter, week by week.
Yeah, I did.
That's actually very flattering. Right?
Again, this was in Hungary, it's very strange, right? But at CPEC Hungary, where I went to speak this year, I was sitting in a group of Spanish-speaking people. I didn't know where they were from. They were speaking together. I sat down to eat. And I got into a conversation with a young girl from Colombia, and I forget how it came about, but she said that they were doing a book club on this book here, and she showed it to me, and I was like, "That's my book." So in a university in Colombia, they're doing because it had been already translated in Spanish, it just hadn't been launched in Latin America yet. They were doing a book club on it, and she was like, no, this book. I'm like, that's my book. I wrote that. But it's a book to the whole West, just warning us about the encroachment of communistic-like behavior and
woke
socialism, woke ideology, and I want to mention, too, because they're so great, the Center for Fundamental Rights in Hungary has a branch in Madrid, Spain, and so my friend Farkas, who's the head of that branch, who speaks obviously Hungarian, but Spanish beautifully and English beautifully. He came down there and launched the event, and they did such a super job.
That is fantastic.
He's a anti-woke fighter.
Which takes us really to the next point, which is you weren't done, although you had a busy schedule.
Sure did.
The same group of folks, and I guess some others as well, got involved in creating another conference for young people predominantly, I guess, called Woke Busters.
Yes.
And then you taught for 2 days at that event as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, and actually I need to also say thank you to Free Foundation down in Argentina.
Right.
Juan Cruz and his brother there, they run that organization. Our friend Alex Chaffwin is one of the heads of it.
Right.
Anyway, they also sponsored the book event and made it so nice. But then the center and Free also put on this big Woke Busters conference for 2 days out in the province of Argentina in this beautiful place, in this beautiful restaurant where we got fantastic beef, I have to say. Wow, it was so good.
In Argentina.
I think it was called Torre. But anyway, what was so cool about it and unique is that the conference was filled with all people from like ages of 20 to maybe 32 or something. It was all young people. And they were there it was called Woke Buster Conference. They were there to learn from me about the dangers of wokeism, which is really Marxist ideology.
Sure.
And we talked about the history of it and how Hungary overcame communism in their own country under Soviet rule for 46 years, and now how they are such staunch defenders of their own identity, pushing back this Marxist type ideology that has taken form in the European Union now as woke ideology, and they battled the Biden administration trying to force it.
Sure.
Anyway, we talked about that. Alejandro also talked and taught. Vike from the Center for Fundamental Rights also spoke and taught, and the ladies from Italy and Spain. So we had a whole international coalition of anti-wokeism.
What are some of your impressions from these young people? What seemed to like strike a chord with them or make them kind of perk up and pay attention? What were your observations?
Well, they were very receptive to understanding the origins of this type of ideology, and they were very smart. They were concerned about the anti-Israel and pro-Hamas protests in the United States.
Right, that is crazy.
They didn't understand that. Why would you support terrorists in the freest country supposedly in the world?
Right.
And so they wanted to talk about that, and they were just very clued in, I think, on what was going on around the world, more so, I think, than people in the United States. And so it was impressive. And all of these people were Argentine young people.
Right. So I guess that kind of wrapped up your official activities while you were there. But you had time also to kind of wander around Buenos Aires and do some mild goofing off or some educational stuff.
Yeah.
What struck you in your time just wandering around the city and seeing sort of the state of, person on the street kind of stuff? Any observations from that experience?
Well, what's very unusual is that cemetery that I went into. Do you remember?
In Recoleta.
In Recoleta.
Yeah.
And it's a cemetery where a lot of famous people are buried, former presidents of Argentina, and also little Evita, a little...
Evita Peron.
Evita Peron is buried there. And so I lived in New Orleans for over 20 years, so I'm used to seeing graves above the ground.
The
and mausoleum.
Yeah.
But these were the most elaborate. I've never seen anything like this. And you could look, it would be huge structures made out of stone. You could look inside them and often see the caskets and the religious artifacts and flowers. And some of them were falling down. They'd been there for a long time.
Right.
And stairs going down. The guy at the front told me that it was, I think I calculated in my head, it was about 30 feet deep under each mausoleum where you could put caskets and things. It was eerily beautiful.
Yeah.
It was a lot
remarkable.
of history and eerily beautiful. I also went into a museum that was from one of their presidents, Sarmiento,
yeah.
who was this amazing man who wrote books. He was an author. He was the ambassador to the United States. And this was in the late 1800s, I believe, late 1800s. He came to the U.S. He was tasked by their government in Argentina to find the best education. So this is what I'm trying to say, like how sophisticated and developed Argentina was way back even then.
Right.
To find the best education in the U.S. and Europe and bring it back to Argentina. So I saw pictures of these school teachers that he had brought from the United States back to live there to teach people how to teach.
Right.
And it was very interesting.
That's a very sophisticated, interesting program to encourage and enhance education. That's remarkable.
Yeah.
So having returned, you've written an article that I think addresses a very important thing, and it's kind of what we kicked off talking about, having to do, it's very interesting. So there are various political munchkins on both the left and the right who for some reason feel that they can lecture the man that invented MAGA, right? The man that
it's not MAGA.
rebranded America First, right? The first iteration of that, of course, is the 1930s. But the guy who invented MAGA and invented America First, or rebranded it now, they're lecturing him, President Trump, on whether he's Trumpian enough, I guess, on the relationship with Argentina. So the article's in Human Events.
It is.
We're going to put that up on the screen or link it in our show notes as well.
Good.
But tell us about your article and what you tried to get across based upon your experience in Argentina.
Well, and it's cleverly titled How Trump's Argentina Support is Strong America First Strategy.
Okay.
Because, I should be used to this by now working in Washington, D.C., but I'm still surprised at the very narrow thinking of people. And I'm not going to name names just because I don't want to.
That's unfortunate.
You can. But, America First people, MAGA people, are saying that his strategy supporting Argentina and the things he's doing in Latin America is not America First strategy. I don't think I need to go through everything I just said in the beginning of the show to prove, and that's just touching the surface.
Sure.
And I don't believe we need to be involved in every place around the world. From the very beginning of the Ukraine war, except for humanitarian aid, I didn't think we should be involved in it. It was not in our interest.
Yeah, there's a very interesting irony where the people screaming about providing assistance or working out a deal that we profit from in Argentina, they're hysterical about that, but giving $300 billion.
Yeah, we gave that to Argentina. That wasn't a loan or a currency.
Ukraine.
Excuse me, to Ukraine.
Right.
It was just. Yeah,
right.
But that's okay.
And millions of people did, and no one's worried about that. But helping out an allied country in our backyard.
And Ukraine is we will get off on a tangent, but it's a corrupt country.
Right.
The people are good people. Their government is corrupt.
So anyway, there's a schizophrenia. There's a schizophrenia
Yes.
between the thinking about Ukraine versus the thinking about Argentina.
Yes. So it's narrow thinking to think this is not America First policy.
Right.
It is, and even if you read articles about it that says it's not America First, they don't go beyond the surface of just saying, well, it's focusing on foreign places.
Right.
What? Well, America First has never meant America alone.
Exactly.
We have certain interests in certain areas. I would argue we certainly have an interest in our own hemisphere.
Yes, indeed.
And, Secretary Bessent has said that we have an obligation to support our allies as a security, I'm saying as a security concern here in our hemisphere. So anyway, that's why we have to do it. It's very short-sighted to just say anything overseas is not America First.
Right.
We should be very wise about it. I say this a lot. I'm the daughter of a former Marine pilot who was shot down in Vietnam, in a coma for 6 weeks. I am not willing to shed American blood all over the United States or American treasury, treasure. I'm not willing to do that. But there are certain strategic interests that we have where we should put our finite resources.
Right. There's a clear self-interest in payback. That's good for us. So I get the impression that you were warmly received in Argentina.
Yes.
That there's a network that you have there, both in and out of government, that is very interested in developing, professional and diplomatic relationships and give and take back and forth. I don't know. Give me sort of your impression or your sense of, I guess, both the merits and the benefits moving forward of those sorts of relationships.
Well, I should have said this in the beginning. The Hume Institute in Argentina invited me. They were part of the sponsors with the Senate to come speak to the Senate and also help put together.
And that's like a nonprofit think tank kind of organization.
It is. It's a very good think tank. They focus on economics in a lot of ways. Also, they're Hayek people. I'm a Hayek person.
Right.
And they have a excellent organization there, and they help to coordinate my meetings, and they have a heart for Argentina as well, and they think it's important to have outside partnerships with the United States. So they have really driven a lot of this, and I'm proud to be friends with them, and also this is the second time I've been to Argentina to work with them.
Right.
So they're very good at what they do. And so going forward, I think there's a lot of opportunities. The doors are opening because of Trump's interest in Latin America and Trump taking an interest in supporting Milei through this election. There's a lot of interest in the Defense Department through some people I know that are working towards better relations and better, like I said, fraternal security, hemispheric security.
Right.
So going forward, my message when I was down there is that the time is now to do this.
Right.
Because if, God forbid, Milei didn't win again and we get another Peronist back in, we need to put strong structure already that's U.S. related down there, strong capitalistic structure, strong freedom structure that will help push Argentina and the rest of Latin America to the right place. Because this election that Milei's Congress won, it's having effects throughout Latin America elections.
Bolivia has turned the corner to the right.
Yep.
It looks like Chile is also going to turn to the right. So there's hope. Argentina is not the Lone Ranger.
Right.
There's opportunities, there's possibilities in Latin America for, it's not all Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba.
That's what I'm trying to tell people. I don't think it's too much to say that Argentina is Latin America's hope. And that's why I think that we can't let this opportunity slide by. This is something I talked to the Senate about and to Vice President Villarreal. She agrees.
Right.
We can't let this time right now, during Trump, during Rubio, during Milei, who all want to work together to better our relationship for freedom,
right.
for real democracy, for free markets. About a week ago, I guess, Secretary Rubio signed a trade agreement with the Argentine foreign minister. They have a new one in now that opens up U.S. markets, opens up Argentine markets to our products and vice versa, lowering tariffs. So where our beef and our poultry will have a market in Argentina.
And probably vice versa. I mean, to lower U.S. beef costs, the one way to do that is to bring in Argentine beef, right? I mean, without hurting American cattle ranchers. So it's an interesting dynamic, and I think an area for a lot of opportunity for smart expansion and development.
Mm-hmm.
So I've asked you a lot of questions.
Yeah. Shall I ask you some?
No, please. I'm not equipped. But is there anything that I've left out? Is there something that you wanted to touch on or discuss that we have somehow missed along the way? Or just something you want to hit over again?
I don't think so. I think that I've talked a lot, so I've hit all the points on how important this is, and that I think that our thinking shouldn't be so narrow.
Right.
I am looking at this from a security point of view,
right.
Hemispheric security and homeland defense.
Yeah, the South Atlantic is a very big place.
You talk about that just a second, because here's another problem.
Right.
The Chinese have ships that patrol that area. Argentina has not said that they can do that, and they suck the fish.
Yeah, they literally vacuum every living thing out of the ocean.
So why doesn't the U.S. have a presence there,
right.
with ships and military? Again, that's something that would have to be talked about. I'm not for being everywhere in the world, but it's just a question. That if that's such a rich place full of fish, full of
it's just a big chunk of the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the southern cone of South America and the South Atlantic and a big chunk of Antarctica. It's a huge piece of the world.
It is.
And there's a lot going on there, stuff that people don't necessarily even think about.
Right.
So why not have a friend in the area, right?
I mean, China thinks it's a great place.
Right.
We talked
so
about
if China's
this.
paying a lot of attention to it, guess what? We probably should pay a lot of attention to
They're
it.
patrolling the sea. They've got the space station we talked about. I'm quite sure, watching our satellites and collecting information. This radio, I don't know if I mentioned the radio telescope place that had a 10-year contract in Argentina. The Chinese were investing. It's about 90% done. And Milei said, you have to stop. You have to stop the construction. And I think it had to do with the relationship with Trump.
I guarantee it did.
But, I mean, that radio telescope place, you know more about this than I do. It can suck electromagnetic impulses from everything. So they're collecting all this information. So the Chinese think it's a fantastic place to be in order to gain, military prowess, geopolitical influence.
Right.
Why are we allowing this?
Exactly.
Why don't we have a presence there? Because Argentina is a willing partner. But the thing is they're, through this Peronist decades, they've become very reliant on the Chinese economically. So it's not an overnight thing. It won't be overnight, but we have to start putting our presence there.
Something that just popped into my head that you had talked about earlier, and I'll just mention it, is that Argentina's military has just taken on P-3 Orion surveillance planes to patrol the South Atlantic, and they're also picking up a batch of F-16 fighters, which is a big improvement, a big enhancement to their Air Force.
Right.
And again, that's also part of the deal worked out by Trump and Rubio.
Yep.
And I guess Hegseth was involved in that as well to some degree. But so that's just another indicator, I think. That's another a positive event that reinforces everything you've been saying in this interview today.
Yeah, Milei has said that he wants to work with the U.S. more economically and militarily.
Right.
And, I don't think that their detachment from China is going to happen overnight because they rely on them so heavily at this point. And but it's worth our while to support him, as Trump has been doing with the F-16s. And, they bought them from Denmark, right? We had them in Denmark. And with the economic aid, it is not a bailout, like I said.
Right.
So it's worth our while. It is America first. It is in our national security interest.
Well, Dr. Shea, you've filled us in. You brought us up to speed on Argentina. So first of all, welcome back to the good old US of A.
It is always so good to be back. It's like every time I go somewhere, and I love it, it is like when I get up to the customs, I have actually offered to sing the Star Spangled Banner, which they don't think is that funny, but I'm just so glad to be on American soil.
Always good to be back in the USA.
It is. This is a great country.
It's the best country. So thanks for the update. I think a lot of people will be very interested in what's going on in Argentina. And, there's nothing like actually going there and engaging with the people and doing the research and the meetings. And so we thank you for that. It's a great public service. It's part of the educational work that you do.
Yep, at Counterpoint Institute. Exactly. Let me mention that.
And we'll put that link as well into the show notes for your organization. We thank you for taking time and for informing our audience about a lot of really very significant developments economically, security-wise, militarily. It's important information, so thank you for joining us.
I appreciate you taking the time to get the word out about this, and it's a very interesting topic once you delve into it. You realize how much it relates to the United States.
It sure does.
So thank you again. And let me just say, please follow us on Counterpoint Institute. You can sign up for our newsletter.
Sure.
There, it doesn't come out that often, so you won't be inundated. Follow me on X at @Dr.Shea_DC.
Right.
Same on Instagram, and at Counterpoint DC on X and Counterpoint Institute on Instagram. So we'd love to hear from you. Just make it civil.
Well, Dr. Shea, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Chris Farrell. On Watch.